You again, Liz, Ben. I'm so proud of you. Think about the people that you've inspired over these years of us working together. And there's something in sports called the coaching tree, where certain coaches produce more coaches that produce more coaches. And I don't know who said it. I think it was Peter Drucker said that leaders produce leaders. And I think that's true, as entrepreneurs produce entrepreneurs. And there's a spirit of abundance and a spirit of whole kind of this holistic view that I think that y'all embody. And I'm very honored to be a part of this and honored to hear your presentations and share some thoughts from my 18 years of being an entrepreneur and working with thousands of entrepreneurs on their brands over the years. I wanted to talk a little bit about this idea of unfinished or unfinishing. And this idea is to understand that to be an entrepreneur is an entirely different experience than most humans go through. The only thing I can compare it to is being a parent, because that work is never done either, and you don't really know what you're doing, but you kind of have to do it. And love cures almost everything. So I wanted to tell you why the work of an entrepreneur is unfinished. And the short version of all this could be like a 15-second commencement, is because it's supposed to be unfinished. It is, somebody used the term iterative. It is iterative. If you look at it from an evolutionary psychology or the evolution of consciousness, it is most definitely never finished, because it's energy, and energy is never finished. Energy just goes someplace else. So and the other thing to remember here is that it's an art, and art is never completed. It's never really done. I think it was Da Vinci said that I've never finished a painting, I just stopped painting it. And it's in the iteration that you improve and grow. And it is evolutionary law that it's going to change. And one of the things that's changing constantly is you. I think one of the greatest insults you can hear from somebody is you haven't seen them for a while and they go, "Oh, you haven't changed a bit." I'm terrified of hearing that. Because either you're growing or you're atrophying, and so you're going to change. And society is shifting. Look at the massive changes in our society in the last decade, in particular, but in the last 2 years, it's been this massive shift in reprioritization. Some are calling it the Great Resignation. I'm calling it the Great Reprioritization of what's important and what's not important. And then also everything gets commoditized. Whatever you're doing, somebody will make it cheaper, faster, better. But they can't replicate you as an entrepreneur, and they can't guess what you're going to invent next. And there's so many different ways to stay on top of commoditization. That's for a longer topic, a longer time. But so the work is unfinished. And so if it is unfinished, there's some kind of like a rule book here. And I'll put these in chat when I'm done sharing them, but I call these the 8 mantras of unfinishing. These are just little reminders for yourself. And I forgot to ask you, Liz and Ben, are we PG-13, rated R?
You could be as rated R if you feel like,
okay,
as long as you're not hurting anybody's actual personal feelings.
Well, we'll see. No. So I only have one bit of profanity, but I wanted to check first.
I'm a fan of profanity in the right places.
Right.
Absolutely.
I think this is it. Yeah, it's a good finisher. So these are 8 mantras, and I'll put them in chat in just a second. But first of all, the only known cure for fear is action. And fear is the primary emotion of being an entrepreneur. Somebody once described the being in the Army as 27 hours of boredom and 1 hour or 23 hours of boredom and 1 hour of terror. And there's an element of that too. And your biggest threat to your enterprise is your own mind and your own conditioning at a mammalian and reptilian level to not die, and that at a neocortex level to be seen as different or not fit in. And so the only way to overcome those fears is action. You have to touch your fears until they become strengths. It's another way to look at it. Number 2, conviction is a conversation starter. You don't need a talk track and a pitch. You really don't. You need to know what you're selling and who you're selling it to and all that. But the first sentence is the one that matters the most. And that comes from conviction. And it's a conversation starter, because if you can express your conviction, somebody can go, well, tell me more about that. Or somebody can go, I don't want to hear, oh, I don't believe that. And now they don't waste your time. Number 3 is please do not ever focus group your mission or your message. These are yours. You don't need a focus group to tell you. I love data, and you can A/B test, campaigns, but whatever your mission is that you're here to do, in this fuel behind this idea that you're investing in, and whatever your message is, which is your message is what you really want to say. It's not what other people want to hear. Don't focus group that. Related to that is number 4, which is make the world react to you. Nothing gets done in entrepreneurism from a defensive posture. It's a series of just moon launches over and over and over again, seeing what happens, iterating, coming back, and making the world react to you instead of reacting to the world. Next up is freedom requires healthy systems. Esther Perel is one of my favorite thinkers, and she talks about the use of roles and rituals in intimate relationships. And roles and rituals as an entrepreneur are really important too, and especially most importantly is self-care. That is the first system to create. Then there are creativity systems and productivity systems and operational systems, but if you don't have your self-care system figured out, it's going to affect your enterprise. It's by its own, just because that's what happens. It's almost a natural law. Next up is learn the difference between focus and awareness. I got this from my business partner, Emily's dad, Bill, who's become a dear friend. And he said that one piece of advice he has for all entrepreneurs is to learn the difference between focus and awareness. Keeping in mind, as the creatures that we are with our optic nerves and the way our eyes are designed, we can only focus on one thing at a time. Multitasking is a myth. Multi-thinking is real, if you have ADHD in particular, but multitasking is a myth. And so you need to, so the difference between focus and awareness is focus is what is important right now, and then there's a general awareness. So for example, cost, the cost of doing business, that's the thing to be aware of. The thing to focus on is revenue. Revenue cures everything, or profit cures everything really in business. And there's a lot of that, where there's a lot of things that will come at you that will feel like opportunities, but they're really distractions. And you have to be really almost brutal about what you give your focus and awareness to, because you can be overwhelmed. Next up is intuition is data. And this is where we get into sort of the mystical side of business and being an entrepreneur. And Stephen Pressfield writes extensively about this in his books, The War of Art in particular. Is intuition is different than instinct. Instinct is a survival response, and it is frequently wrong. Unless you're actually in a violent or dangerous situation, our minds are not that sophisticated. Our mammalian minds, our reptilian minds are not that sophisticated. Intuition is something different. Intuition is a knowing. It's a sense of tapping into some wisdom. It is the fuel for conviction, that conversation starter you want to have. And learning how to listen to it is really essential as an entrepreneur. If you don't listen to intuition, generally what you're doing is making ego-based decisions. I don't mean ego like in the traditional, he's got a big ego, but the ego is the part of the brain that wants to keep us alive. And it does not understand intuition. It does not have intuition. Intuition comes from a different part of us, it seems. Next up is embrace the mystery. And these are very related. We don't know what's going to happen, and that's okay. It is the unknown. If we can learn to love the unknown and to, as the Stoics used to say, memento mori, or morti, remember you will die. Or Pema Chodron, the Buddhist monk, calls it impermanence. That we don't know what's going to happen. But this is why it's important to always know there's two things that shouldn't be a mystery, which is, who are you? I know who I am, and I know what I want. I know why I'm doing this. The rest of it, we don't know what's going to happen. And assumptions about the marketplace and how they're going to respond, The marketplace is a fickle mistress when it comes to business. Two more. Stopping is a strategy. Rest is required is another way to look at that. Stopping is a strategy. Going back to one of the oldest books, the Art of War versus Pressfield's book, War of Art. Sun Tzu talks about this extensively, and it's the strategic retreat. It's the stopping, and a couple of magical things happen with stopping. One is that it helps you be present. And being an entrepreneur is a near constant battle against thinking about the past or worrying about the future. Stopping gets you present. Stopping also produces stillness, so you can listen to your own soul, listen to nature, listen to whatever you believe in, listen to whatever you believe in. And then there's stillness, which is a chance to just breathe for a minute. And I am convinced if we spent 2 or 3 minutes once or twice a day with some conscious breathing, our enterprises would run better, be more profitable, and be better branded. It's that we forget to stop because, there's a variety of reasons. Finally, and maybe above all, fuck the formula. There are no formulas. The only formula there is the formula for selling formulas. There are methodologies and there are processes, but whenever somebody comes to you and says they have a secret, that's I don't trust anybody that sells a secret. And so this doesn't mean not to take advice or listen to mentorship and things like that, but it just means that make your own music, do your own thing, and create your own way of doing something. And my mentor over the years, a man named Ron Price, one of his many Ron Priceisms is all systems are flawed, some are useful. And I would paraphrase that as all formulas are flawed, some are useful for a while. So the main thing I want to leave you with is something I said earlier, and that is to keep touching your fears until they become strengths. The greatest thing you can do as an entrepreneur is to accept that you're never done, and then that your fear is a door to what you're going to do next. As soon as you start to treat fear like a wall, then you're redirected from what you want to do. And that doesn't mean to be brash. It doesn't mean that you're not ever going to be afraid. That doesn't mean that. It means that fears become strengths if you touch them. Fears become much stronger if you don't, if you deny them or try to cover them up with something. So that's what I have to share with you guys today. And I hope that some of it was useful and that you're able to apply it. And I'm grateful for the opportunity.